All right, so yesterday, Unit 0, Section 2, we talked about the Pythagorean theorem. It's basically a squared plus b squared equals c squared. The caveat for that to work is we have to be told we have a right triangle. If you do not have a right triangle, then a squared plus b squared does not equal c squared. Now, yesterday we showed you in the diagram, if you see that little red box, or little box in that right angle symbol, you have a right triangle. Well, today we are going to be proving that we have a right triangle, okay? Or we have some other type of triangle, okay? So, if a squared plus b squared equals c squared, this is the converse statement. So, if a squared plus b squared equals c squared, then we have a right triangle. Right? That is the converse of the Pythagorean theorem. The original Pythagorean theorem says if we have a right triangle, then a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Today, we're doing the opposite. Okay? Now, are we still going to be doing a squared plus b squared equals c squared? Sort of. What we're going to do is see if that's true. Now, you have technically have four outcomes, but I'm not going to ask about that fourth outcome because we haven't gotten there yet. Okay. You have three outcomes if the square of the two smaller sides, because again, c always has to be which side? The biggest. So when you look at your numbers, c is always the biggest number. Always put c over there by itself. The biggest number must be by itself. The other two numbers, a and b, don't matter which order they're put in, but c must be by itself. So if a squared plus b squared equals c squared, then it's a right triangle. But if c squared is bigger than a squared plus b squared, then you have an obtuse triangle. Now, if you don't know an obtuse triangle is a triangle where you have one angle that is bigger than 90. Right triangle, you have that one right angle. Now, if c squared is less than a squared plus b squared, then you have an acute triangle, which means no angles bigger than 90. Yeah. What we're going to do, again, we're going to label C. Again, A and B don't matter. If you want to label them, you can. But the first thing you want to do is label C because C must be the biggest side. The other two don't matter. Say they could be make it A, they could be no one cares. And C is the only one that matters. So I just like to go in order, biggest to smallest, just because my obsessive compulsive disorder says to do that. Okay, so 5, 7, 10. I'm going to make that A, that B, and then that C. So over here, I'm going to make that A and that B just because I like to go biggest to smallest, or smallest to biggest. So 5 squared plus 7 squared, what is that compared to 10 squared? Is that equal? Is that less than, or is that greater than? Well, let's see what it is. Who knows what 5 squared is? 25. 25. What's 7 squared? Now, what's 10 squared? 100. Now, 25 plus 49 is 74. So, 74 is less than. So, what kind of triangle do we have? Since C is the biggest side, obtuse. C is bigger. Or C squared. C will always be bigger, but C squared will. Now, I'm going to break out the calculator for this because I don't know what these are. Here we have 3.8 squared plus 4.1 squared, and we have 5.2. A little smaller here. All right. So 3.8 squared, that is 14.44. 4.1 squared, 16.81. 5.2 squared, 27.04. Now, if you need to add those together, go ahead and add those together. If you don't, and you already know what the answer is, you can go ahead and say the answer is, I'm going to add together to make sure we know, 14.44 plus 16.81 is we get 31.25. Is that bigger than, less than, or equal to 37.04? That is greater than. So since my c squared is less than the other two sides, then this is acute. Again, you just look for that symbol here. Okay. So the symbol of deuce and the symbol of acute. So if you're not already in the spot check, go ahead and go to the spot check. That part to do with the spot check. So type in your answer for this. Do not calculate in the letters. R times I times 2 to have times C. I know other way we can do that. There may be a way, but I don't think if I put quotations around it, it might work as a text. But yeah. Okay. On the homework, it's multiple choice, so you'll just click the right response. Okay. Yay. I think if you put right triangle, I should have been a little more, because if you put right triangle, I would take that. Okay, but you just have to put cube obtuse or right, and that's fine. So yeah, it is a right triangle. Let's look at this. Again, A, B, and C, 6 squared plus 8 squared is blank, 10 squared. 36 plus 64, blank, 100. It is equal to 100, making this right. Even though I said not to capitalize anything, don't they all lose. So it is right. Now the question that's going to come up here on the homework is this a right triangle, yes or no? And the question on the homework, when you get to it, it's just going to have like the check yes, check no. Okay. So when you do this, you're going to take, again, the biggest side must be C. There's no choice there. You're going to have all three sides, which is nice. You know the biggest side is C. The other two don't make a difference. I'm just going to go smallest to biggest like I normally do. So 65 squared plus 72 squared, does that equal 97 squared? That's the question. If it does, the answer is yes. If it doesn't, your answer is no. So let's get a calculator because I don't know what these are. 65 squared, 4,225. 72 squared, 5,184. I'm going to add those together. 9404. 97 squared. 9409. So yeah, that is 9409. So that means if they are equal, the answer is yes. It is the right kind. All right. Example 3 is your next spot check. Let's look at it before you get started on that though. Use 4 stakes to mark foundation of your house. You want to make sure the foundation is rectangular. Sides are 30, 72, and 72. Now, most of you guys know rectangles. The opposite sides are equal to each other, which should be fine. Okay? But what you don't know is what a parallelogram is. Okay? Because we'll learn about that in this class. So, if you have a shape that has the opposite sides that are equal and right angles, they never try. So you need to make sure you have right angles here. That's what you're checking. Okay. So to do that, you measure off a diagonal. Draw this out. Question is 30, 72. If you measure off a diagonal and you get 78, do you have a rectangle or do you have parallelogram? Question. So, how do you know if you have a rectangle? Well, does that make a right angle? How can you tell if it's a right angle? Does a squared plus b squared equal c squared? All right, so that's your spot check. Roll it out here. Yeah, I didn't know how to narrow it down to just yes or no. So, yes.
Yeah. So, we're going to see 30 squared plus 72 squared.
Yeah. Does that equal 78 squared?
There's no maybe. Yes.
Should I?
9. Yes. No. 9.
Yeah, it's incorrect on me. Yeah. The answer is what? Is it? So if you run this through 30 squared plus 72 squared, again, you can actually just type that in your calculator to get what I got, which was 6084. 6084.
6,084.
And then 78 squared is also 6,084. So now you know that's a right triangle, which means you do have a rectangle. So yes.
Oh.
Now, this question I'm not a big fan of. It's not going to be on the test or quiz that's coming up, which is Thursday, by the way. We'll review tomorrow. Oh,
Yeah.
so, reason being is because we haven't talked about how to determine distance. Have you guys done distance formula in Algebra 1? What do we do? The distance formula.
I think they said that, I think my teacher said, he mentioned it, but he said we weren't gonna do it. Because there's too much stuff we need to do.
That right there.
Too much
For
stuff.
We're going to talk about that. Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
That's the distance formula. There is kind of a shortcut for this. There is kind of a shortcut for this. So again, I didn't really want to bring this up just because you have to find the distance of all 3 sides first and then see if it's a right. Or what kind of right QO2. So I'm going to write this a bit differently to make this a bit easier. Okay. Do you know what that says? Well, it's not triangle X, by the way.
Delta X.
Delta X. What does delta mean in math?
Delta Airlines?
In mesh?
Delta Airlines is flying in a straight line?
No. Change in x. Delta means change in. Okay, so delta x means change in x. Delta y means change in y. So if I want the length of AD, right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this. Delta x squared plus delta y squared. Right, so look at A and B. X goes from what? From A to B. X goes from 2 to what?
2,558.
For A to B. X goes from 2 to what? 2 to 5. X goes from 2 to 5.
Oh.
So what's the change from 2 to 5?
3.
3 squared. Right. Y goes from 2 to what for X, A to B? 2 to 7. So 2 to 7 is a change in what? 5. So I'm just going to type that in my calculator. Okay. And that's going to give me what? I'm gonna leave the squared alone. I'm just gonna type that in. 3 squared plus 5 squared is 31. I'm gonna leave that alone. Okay. That's it. Just leave it alone. There's a reason why I'm gonna leave that alone, and you'll find out in a bit. We're gonna do the same thing for B to C. Delta x squared plus delta y squared. So from B to C, your x value goes from 5 to 10, so that's a change in what? 5. By the way, does it matter if that change is positive or negative? No. Why doesn't it matter? There's the question you gotta ask.
Because it's a square root.
Not a square root, it's a square. Any number squared is going to become what? Positive. So that's why it doesn't matter if it's a increase or decrease, because we're going to square it anyway, and it's going to make it positive. So and we can see from 5 to 10, that is going up 10, but from 7 to 6, that's going down 1. It doesn't make a difference if you put a positive or negative, because you're going to square it anyway, and it's going to make it positive. So I can show you in a calculator just to make sure, I'm not just saying stuff. So if we did 5 squared plus 1 squared, that's going to be 26. Or if you did 5 squared plus parentheses negative 1 squared, also 26. So it doesn't matter if it's an increase or decrease, you just want to change. Now the reason why I did it, again, is because we're squaring it. You guys talked about slope before, right? Okay, that's change y or change in x. Those cases, you're not squaring them. So you do need to know if it's a positive or negative change in those cases. But in this case, it's not super important because you're squaring. All right, last one is from A to C. That's my last side. So from 2 delta x. Oh, what happened? All my numbers.
Oh, my face.
Oh, I didn't do a lot of that. So, delta x squared plus delta y squared is equal to, change in x from 2 to 10 is 8, and then change in y from 2 to 6 is 4. That is going to give you 70, 80. 64 plus 16. Well, squared clean. Which one's my biggest side then?
HG.
Yeah, so this is my C value. We'll say that's A and that's B. So A squared plus B squared equals B squared. The reason why I didn't simplify any radicals is what happens when you square root a square or square root.
Square root by square.
So when you square the square root, it disappears. Okay? When you square root, it disappears. So when you have square root of 26 squared plus the square root of 34 squared equals, well, yeah, I don't know, do I? I'm actually checking for this. So let's put blanks here. Blank equals the square root of 80 squared. That's just going to cancel out and leave you as 26 plus 34 blank to 80. So the square root is gone. I'm running out of room, so yeah, I'm write pretty small now. So what's 26 plus 34? 60, greater than, less than, or equal to 80? Less than means what kind of triangle is this? Obtuse. Now, told you that's not being your homework. That's way too much work. We haven't even talked about the distance formula. I don't know why it's on there. Actually, I do know why it's on there because we took this from a different unit and didn't really check over this before they gave it out. So, yeah. Anyway, don't stress it. None of your homework questions will be like that. Your homework questions will be more like first few questions, example 1 and 2. Okay, you might have an example 3 in there, but yeah, it'll be more like example 1 and example 2. In fact, let's look at your homework. Here.
When you published it,
Yeah, time with all that. Yep. Public. Question. Is this a right triangle, yes or no? So basically, does a squared plus b squared equal c squared? That's the question. Yes or no? So that's example number 2. Yes or no, is this a right triangle? All right. Number 2 is the same question. Yes or no, is that a right triangle? So again, a squared plus b
I
squared equals
think
c
that
squared.
shows it as an upside down right triangle, even though it might or might not be a right triangle.
Yeah, that's one thing. You do have to make sure you understand what's the biggest side, no matter what position it's in. Now, number 3 is where it gets a little tricky. So let's look at number 3. Below are a bunch of random numbers. What set of random numbers would give you a right triangle?
My God.
Ooh, that was kind of tough. So,
Just gotta do 2 of the small numbers in one.
still a few beats. Yeah. Yeah, that was really fun.
Yeah, you just do 2 of the small numbers and you just get a longer line. So what, you still have 3 sides?
Let's do this. Let's do this a little pragmatically. Okay. So what I'm going to do for this question is I'm going to take each number. Well, actually, I'm going to do this in order to make this easier. I like order. So I'm going to take the smallest. 20, 21, 28, 29, 40, and 46. And I'm going to square each of these. I can do that calculator pretty quick. Now 20 squared is 400. That is 441. 28 squared. 28 squared. 784. So that tells me that 20, 21, and 28 don't work. Okay? Because I can't, yeah. That's plus 29 squared.
Why doesn't it do?
Because it has to equal. The sum would have to equal. 841. Look at that. If I added these two together, do I get 841?
Yeah.
There you go. You can stop right there. So 400 for A. Sorry, 20 for A, 21 for B, and C you could say is 29. So just keep squaring your numbers and see what sums of the smaller values give you your bigger value. Yeah. Let's say here A is 20, B is 21, C was 29. Check answer. Thanks. Again, I'm assuming you guys have different numbers. Alright, same question for number 4, number 3, and 4, same question. So again, I would take it the same way. Start least to greatest, start squaring your numbers and see which sums of your smaller value gives you your bigger value. This one is a lot like the first 2 questions, but you just have 5 different options. Which ones give you a right triangle? So which ones give you a squared plus b squared equals c squared? Okay.
Oh, here's something, guys. If you ever have a two-digit number, like 40. Just add 2 zeros to it and just add the number that would be if it was 4 times 4.
I hope you listen.
Alright, so for this one, again, you just take your two numbers, I would go ahead and take your two smallest, just pick your two smallest, so here, two smallest would be 16 and 30, square them and add them together, you can type that all together in the calculator. So take 16 squared plus 30 squared and see what that gives you. And see if 34 squared is the same thing. Is it? Yeah. 16 squared, 30 squared, so check mark that one. That one's a right triangle. All right, then we're trying the next one. So next we have 5 squared plus 12 squared. Gives you 169. 13 squared is 159. So that all could. All right. 3, 4, 5. By the way, 3, 4, 5 is a very common Pythagorean triple, but yeah, 3 squared plus 4 squared does give you 25, and you should know that 5 is 25 squared. Sorry, 25 is not squared. So yes, all three of these so far are right triangles. All right. So, next one is going to be a bit of a challenge, because what's bigger, 4 or 2 root 5? Well, let's see what 2 root 5 is. Well, that's obviously bigger. So, I'm going to square that. So I can take this and I'm going to put parentheses around that. So I'm going to square it. I get 20. All right, so 2 squared plus 4 squared, does that give you 20? Or every single one of these is a right triangle. Now let's hit 4 root 13, so 4 second root 13. That is 14.4, so that is bigger than 12, so that means that's my biggest side. So I'm going to square root that, or square it. Get 208. So let's look at what 8 squared plus 12 squared is. All of these. All of these at the bottom. I'm betting, let me go back here. Yeah. Go ahead and ignore any of them that have a radical in them. Because I'm going to say, they're going to say Pythagorean triples. Pythagorean triples have to be whole numbers. Okay. I was just trying to see if they make right triangles. But yeah, they all make right triangles. Only the ones that have whole numbers are going to be your answer for that question. Which is why I'm glad I'm going over it, because I've been very frustrated with you doing your own.
So even if you didn't answer that, it still could be correct.
Yep. So only you can basically, when you get a question like that, so I think the next question is very similar on Morning's question. Yeah, this one's very similar. So all these are whole numbers. So for all these, you'll have to look and see which ones give you a right triangle. Okay. But for question number 5, just ignore the ones with radicals. Okay. Only worry about other moves. This is the question 1, 2, and 3. Is it right acute or obtuse? Right obtuse. Okay. The segments don't form a triangle. Now, I have to tell you about this, even though, because they told us we haven't set this up at the beginning of the year to do this first, even though this is something we do much later on in the year. This question, in order for a triangle, or in order for 3 sides to even make a triangle, the 2 smallest sides have to add up to be bigger than the 30. So if they don't even do that, you're done. You just put this isn't a triangle.
But the 2 small sides don't add.
Must add up to be bigger than the 30. So let's look at the first one. The 2 smallest are 3 and 4. 3 plus 4. 7. Is that bigger than 5? That's a triangle. So it is a triangle. We don't know what kind yet, but it is a triangle. Look at B. 2 small sides are 6 and 4. That adds up to 10. Is 10 bigger than 11? No. So that is not a triangle. I don't have to do anything else other than that. It is not a triangle. Right. And the last one, 9 and 5 are the 2 smaller sides. 9 plus 5 is 14. It is bigger than 11, so you have to see if it's right acute or obtuse. You know it's at least a triangle. But for B, on my case, on B, Because 6 plus 4 is not bigger. It has to be bigger. It cannot equal. It has to be bigger than the third side. The two small sides, there's some that's bigger than the third side. Again, that is something we will cover again when we go into right triangle grades. And I want to say that's something we cover either this semester or in early next semester. Yeah.
I have an idea. And then restrictions. I have. What? I'm from East York, on part, let's try 36 plus. Okay, bro. I believe Popeye stole it.